Welcome back to A-List Talks. I'm Adam Armbruster, your host. With me today is a amazing person. Can't wait to get into her story. Chelsea Zirpola. She's active CMO of Renewal by Andersen, one of the most successful divisions of that brand in the country. She's got an MBA. Prior to that, she was national marketing manager for Gutter Helmet. Prior to that, she was at RBA Renewal by Andersen, Colorado, which, by the way, I knew of her reputation without knowing her. So that might give you a sense of that. But she did a whole lot more before this. And that's what today's all about. Chelsea, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam.
Chelsea, if I had to ask you three words that would describe how you want people to see you, like honestly from the heart, what would those three words be?
A quick glimpse, it would be excellence, passion, and innovation. And I think those three words really kind of wrap me up in a ball. I think there's so many things that can be birthed out of innovation, and passion just drives all of that to the end, right?
It does. Chelsea, what was home for you as a child? Where were you and what was that like?
Home was Hawaii. So my mom was born in Kailua. And so, when, you are born in a culture that is just this amazing, beautiful island, you think differently. And so, looking at it from a childhood view, it was every day that I'm at the beach or every day that I'm enjoying fresh fruit. And, so that childhood was amazing, allowed me to see a culture that was so different. Then as I, moved to the mainland and went to college, it was just a different culture, a different mindset. Everybody kind of was moving in slow motion because that's the island way, right?
I always laugh when people are in a hurry on an island. Like, what are you rushing to?
Where
Where are
you
you going to
going?
end up?
What
Back
you
where you
doing?
started.
Yeah.
When you got to the rest of the states, when you said your culture was different in Hawaii versus the rest of the states, how did you perceive it as different?
In the islands, if you've been there, many people can resonate that are listening in, everybody has this aloha spirit. It's very welcoming, it's very community oriented. There really isn't like a lot of like segmentation. You really are a big island of an amazing group of people. And especially if you come from being of a Hawaiian, heritage, even more so, you have this beautiful individual group of people that love everyone. They want to make sure there's aloha spirit. They want to make sure you're eating well. Everybody's auntie, right? Everybody loves each other. And it was just very different. I moved to the mainland when I was a senior in high school. My mom really wanted to make sure that I had the right education. In the mainland, she felt like I would get all of the aspects of school, but what a great shift and change in my life, because you go from being on the island where it's completely different, and then we moved to Louisiana. They wanted to be close to my grandparents. My grandparents were in Hawaii at one point and they moved to Louisiana to retire. And so it was completely different. And so you kind of look at that and you're like, how do you go from the islands to Louisiana and be able to kind of cope with not only the change in food alone, but just the change in people and how people were. And, I was an outsider, right? I had not grown up with all of these individuals. And it's the senior year of high school. That's the year where you're supposed to be on the prom court or whatever. And I was a stranger to everyone. So it's definitely a big change for us.
And those of you listening on Spotify, you can't see Chelsea, but she always dresses in the most beautiful colors. So I got to think that influenced your fashion choices, the living
Yes.
words, living in paradise.
Absolutely. It's bright colors, it's the flower in your hair, it's the whole thing. And I think we love that in our heritage and our culture. So I'm half Hawaiian and half Italian. So I have the best mixes of both areas, right? So my dad, he passed away when I was younger, but he was Sicilian Italian, and my mom is Hawaiian. So we have this merge of cultures.
When your dad passed, what that's a big issue and obviously traumatic. How did that change you in any way?
It changed me a lot. So we had just moved to Louisiana. We were there only within a couple of months. We,
Mm.
used to build these, remote control airplanes together. And so I think a lot of, the listeners can resonate those moments in time where you spend that, whatever it is with your dad, right? Or with your mom. Well, with my dad, that was our thing together. We really began to unpack this idea of, okay, this could be our one thing that we do. And so we built these, remote control airplanes, and he took it for a flight and it crashed in the woods. So we hired a pilot to take him up, and we had to go pick up my brother from sporting events. And so we said we'd be right back. And that was the last time we saw him. The plane crashed, the small plane that he had rented, and the pilot, they both passed away that day. And I think as a young person, I'm 14 years old, as a young person, it changes everything, right? The person that you believe in, the person that is your hero, the person that, is teaching you all of these amazing things is no longer there, right? So then you have to become stronger than ever. You have to be resilient. You have to not let those things that could destroy you and cause you to not want to do your dreams or not chase the things that you believe in. And you really have to find yourself. What do you believe in beyond, the person that had spoke all of these amazing things and taught me so many things. And so I think it just allowed me to become grown up really quick. My mom, it was just tough for her. She had my brother and I, and we were still young. He was, 12 and I was 14, and life had just started getting good, right? So I think you have to take those experiences in life and really make sure that they don't impact you in a negative way, but it fuels you, because I know he would want me to do what I'm doing today. And I know he'd be proud of me.
Certainly a massive plot twist in your life, Chelsea. When
Yeah.
you mentioned, dreams, like, do you remember a moment when you were pulled in a direction from an interest? And I don't want to say career at age 14, but an interest? Was there a lightning bolt?
There's a couple things which is interesting because, again, I changed my original passion was the medical field. I think when I was really young, I said I'm going to be a heart surgeon. I'm going to save people. At the core of that, in my beginning years, I went to school to be a nurse, and I loved, people. But I love people so much that when I was in the nursing field, I wanted to save everyone. I didn't realize at that age, because when you're young, your pursuit, you don't have real life experience about what that's going to mean. And you put a lot of work, and then you get into the field and you find that, oh my goodness, I love people so much, but I didn't want to see them die. But that was part of being a nurse. And I just broke my soul, because I just was like, I didn't get into this to see people die. I got into this to save people. And so it just crushed my heart. And so I said that within a few months of being a nurse, I did research and development nursing. I still didn't feel that same pull, because I felt like I was failing someone. I couldn't save them. I couldn't do the things I felt like I needed to do. And I'm a people person. And so, I went back, got my MBA, and then I went and I, double masters in marketing. I really felt like that was a people business, right? A business where I could be a great communicator, but I could also, inspire brands to grow to a different level and inspire individuals to connect with brands in a unique way. And I think that was a unique change for me. I'd put all this work in the beginning, but sometimes you make a shift in your career because it isn't driving the passion that you once believed. And I think for the listeners, make sure that your passions are there, because they always say, if you do the things you love, it doesn't become a job or a career, it becomes the things you love. And that's the thing I love. I love people. I love communication. I love the ability to connect, our brand with individuals and be a solution every single day, and to see emotions from a home improvement perspective, where they can say, I love my new windows, or I love my doors. that love and that emotion comes from passion and excitement, right? And change. And I think that's what I do, why I do what I do is passion and change and making sure that I'm developing brands into something great.
So we went from healthcare
I
to, let's
know.
call it a pause,
Yeah.
to marketing MBA to you had a media job of media sales, working with
Yeah.
businesses, obviously, and
Yeah.
industries. But then how do we end up in Windows?
Was interesting. So I again media buyer, right? So that was the first shift from medical to, what I felt like I wanted to do in media. So I was a media buyer for Freedom Communications in Colorado. And so again, love people. And I was the fastest pacing President's Club a buyer of media for various companies. And so what was great for me was I was communicating, I was connecting. So Renewal by Anderson in Denver was my largest client. And we just had started building their portfolio, and I was really able to put together strategies that made a big difference for them. So, the GM at that point decided that, he didn't want to share my efforts with all these other companies and he wanted to go ahead and recruit me as the director of marketing in Denver and Colorado Springs. And it was a great change because, again, instead of being focused on all of these companies and really growing in that diversity of just different industries and different verticals, now I shifted to my full focus being how can I grow brand affinity? How can I grow brand? Because again, at that point, it was just starting to roll in the Denver, Colorado Springs market. And so that was the moment when I got that call. And, of course, not only was I thrilled, but it was something I was already passionate about. For whatever reason, home improvement happened to be a niche for me. I had other, HVAC companies or plumbing that I just did extremely well with because I didn't treat it like a service company. I treated it as a solution company. And so that kind of propelled, that ability for me to start in windows and doors. And it's been an amazing adventure from the very, very start. And I love it. I probably am more passionate about that than most things because I really see that culture and the love of delighting a customer. And again, people person, right? Is what really made what Renewal by Anderson does across the nation so great.
It's a really interesting segue. It almost seems like you could have ended up in any industry.
Yeah.
You just happen to end up in home services and in Windows. Can I ask you a question? Were you welcomed with open arms by this kind of tough guy industry? These guys, let's be honest. I mean, it's male dominated.
Yeah.
It's an obvious question. Were you welcomed with open arms? Great, Chelsea, come on in. Is that how it was, or am I being facetious that maybe it
Yeah,
wasn't so much
no,
like that?
I had to earn my keep.
Yeah.
There wasn't, hey, let me high five. It was a male-dominated group, but I think that once you allow yourself to prove, not only from a theory perspective of how you can grow the company, but prove how hard you work and really become a part of the team, and I think that was a major milestone. I was a bit younger. I had a whole different set of technology mindsets even back then. And this is, date myself. This is 18-ish years ago or 17-ish years ago. And when you're looking at talking about digital strategy back then, oh, she's a little off, because back then we didn't market. Well, I did. Most people didn't market through social media and digital platforms, and so I had the just honor to be able to learn so much of that from, being in a media driven company as a buyer. And so learning some of these tactics that most people have no idea about back then. And I think it was a grind. I had to work and I had to prove myself. And I think that, and I'm so thankful our leader at Renewal by Anderson from the beginning was a woman. And she inspired me so much to not look at it as, hey, this is a male dominated industry, which it is, but what can you do to be a difference maker? And what are those things that you can do to help us grow our brand? And, she is one of the reasons I continue to do what I do. She's inspiring. She allows women to have such a voice in our industry. And I think that has been, the propelling power of why I believe Renewal by Anderson continues to grow at the level that it does.
It sounds to me like she didn't excuse the situation you were walking into or even apologize for it, but she challenged you
Yeah,
to say, make your mark. Do I have that right?
absolutely. So I think that that allowed me to have that confidence. So, as individuals, it's tough. We can either cowl down and say, I don't belong here, or we can rise up and say, I belong. And I believed I belonged because I believe I can make a difference. And I think that's half the battle is knowing that you belong in somewhere, that you really believe that, but that you're willing to say, I could make a difference, even though it's going to be more difficult and have to maybe do some extra things to prove that I can do this. But at the core of who I was, I believed, and I believed that I could take the thing to the next level. And I did. We did amazing things in that market, and they continue to do amazing things today.
For those listening, you're going to encounter some, let's call it speed bumps, some difficult people. You're going to encounter some situations that are going to surprise you. Let me ask you an innocent question, man, but it's a real one. Is what was the most like outrageous thing ever said to you when you came into this business? Does anything stick in your head that I can't believe they said that to me? Anything like that?
Yeah, there was one in particular that I think, back then, several years being a part of Renewal by Anderson, and then I moved over to Gibraltar Industries, which were the manufacturing partners of Sonesta awnings and Gutter Helmet. And so what was interesting is Gutter Helmet allowed me to kind of be keynote speaker for the affiliates because it had, unique affiliates or dealers. And there was a ton of them in the room. And there was an individual that said to me, because again, digital strategy, internet marketer, right? And this is a lot of years ago. And he said, honestly, and he stood up and he's really bold. And he said, honestly, the internet's a fad. It's gonna go away, and we're not going to lead generate that way. And it was just like, no problem. I know different. And I know that if we're on the cutting edge, even that many years ago, can you imagine if, he would have embraced that and he would have allowed himself to see beyond what the old newspapers and all the other ways of marketing would tell him? And now, a majority of the marketing mix, right? When we speak to people, regardless of home services or whatever vertical they're in, digital's leading the way, right? So that for me, I always remembered that. And that was a huge like marker in my mind that, we were innovators even back then. And I was happy to be an innovator. And it didn't matter if half the time people will look at you like you're crazy or weird because you're saying something so foreign, right? But those foreign things, fast forward to today, were the very things that helped propel the home improvement industry into the level in which it is today.
So if someone's listening to this and they're Chelsea starting out in the industry, and that guy stands up while you're giving a talk, looking back on it, Chelsea, with your wiser eyes, from business experience, you were the disruptor. Is it possible you were just scaring the pants off that guy?
100%. I think that we're always scared of change, and fear will kill innovation every single day, right? So we can't come from a place of fear. We have to be ever learning. Younger Chelsea was always learning something, and I probably can tell you I'm still that person today, even though I'm not younger Chelsea. I'm always learning. I'm never going to admit that I know everything because I don't. Especially in the changing environment and the changing verticals that we're always, the channels. I mean, there are so many ways that we can market in a unique way, but there's also so many ways that we can connect with people. We're in the people business, right? It's all about people and how can we relate to an individual, whether it is having conversations like this or whether it's really educating them. We all have to be ever learning, and we have to make sure that we don't get stagnant. And I think that's been, kind of my success throughout the years is ever learning.
I'm going to take my prior question and reverse it.
Mhm.
What was the kindest, most helpful thing someone ever said to you in your early career?
I have an amazing individual that I can call my mentor. She was a best-selling author, and she was in the marketing realm of a consulting kind of realm, and she was an innovator in her own right. I mean, and she was at that point, this is, when I first started my career in media, and she said, "You have innovative eyes. You see things before we even see them." And she was an innovator. She was a top marketer, but there was things that she saw that I could see almost like a visionary, almost into the future. And not because I knew everything, because I listened and I was at the pulse of the change in our industry and the change in media. And it was, coming from her, I was so honored because she had, served the industry with many really large brands. And so, even though, we lose contact once in a while, we always come back to each other. And she's much older now, and I'm much older now, but it was just that moment that, that resonated with my heart, that I was on the right path, that I was doing the right thing, because it was someone that I respected and she respected me. And so that was, a huge moment in my life that kind of gave me that check. You're on the right path. You're doing the right thing.
Do you think that people that have innovative eyes, in your words, and those are good words, do you think it's just, it certainly is intelligence, right? But it isn't trying to walk around like a guru. Do you think it's
No.
just general awareness, like absorbing what's actually happening and not filtering it with your eyes, seeing for what it is? Is that your sense of having innovative eyes?
Yes and no. I think for me, innovation comes in different forms, right? Innovation is, being on the cutting edge, but also the ability to humble yourself and listen. Half of my meetings throughout the week are with brand new individuals, with brand new that I've never ever done any type of business with, because I don't want to miss anything that could be the next thing that could propel our business to the next level. So I take specific time in the week. I don't want to see the same people. I want to see people that I've never met before. And I'm willing to take those meetings because I don't want to miss anything. So, humility, the ability to know that I don't know everything, is also innovation. And then there's a thing called your gut. And I know marketers won't admit it, but your gut knows more and your intuition knows more about the next phase than what you would think. Trust that intuition, line it up with data, of course, but trust your intuition. You'd be surprised how much of what we do day to day is, connecting with people, emotions, strategy, looking at data, but intuition as well.
And always, me, I always want to keep things real. Let's go into an area where, in your history, in your career, where you did something and candidly, it didn't work out. I mean, listen, maybe you learned something from it. Maybe you adjusted your sales quickly, but did you ever say, I've got it, and you did it and it didn't work out?
I think you're always going to have little parts of your marketing strategy that aren't going to work, right? But how would you know it wouldn't work without testing them? And I think that I'm always looking for those aha moments. And, maybe this is cliche, but they say if you're going to fail, fail fast. So I am the first one to say I have to test it to see if it's going to be the next great thing or if it's going to fail. And I monitor it to a point where once do not see the return, I'm quick to shut it down, and I'm quick to learn from that, because you have to test in order to have those abilities to scale success. And so there's lots of times, where I've tested a campaign or I've tested a particular part of the vertical that didn't work out. I think every marketer or every listener can say we are not perfect. Our success is oftentimes driven from the things that we failed and quickly fixed. And that's part of being a true marketer and a true individual that really believes in the change of the marketing, true marketing strategy mix. And I think that's how we have been also able to identify wins.
Let's go there
So
next. Yeah, let's go
yeah.
there next. Okay, now let's go into the thing that you thought of or combined or innovated that did work out. And maybe it's marketing, maybe it's operations. Can you think of anything where you go, man, I came up with that and it really hit?
Yeah, I think that brand affinity, right? Aligning your brand with another brand that could drive, the mindset of that, what we call brand affinity. I believe that as you align your brands and as you can take other brands that are, of course, non-competing, and how can you leverage the power of that follower, the power of that raving fan in a unique way to really push your business in a different level. And I think for us is just really making sure that we're doing our due diligence and driving the successes through brand affinity. And that was something that I think we overall we're like, could we really leverage, a foundational increase through brand affinity? And, we found that we absolutely could. And that brand affinity could be different things to different people. For us, it's just identifying what does your brand identify with, right? Excellence and, making sure that we're driving that mindset of change. And can we connect that with a different brand, you know? And so it really allowed us to grow and scale and allow us to do some unique things that I think set us apart in our markets.
Chelsea, as we get to the end of our time here today, I'm thinking about the young professional listening right now. And that's like, wow, that's great, Chelsea, but I'm 21 years old. And I'm thinking too about that person where, they don't have to seek out information. It's like a fire hose coming at them.
Yeah,
And it's got to be hard to even separate information from nonsense, from fake AI news, from
yeah, it's
it's got to be
crazy.
a third, so it's like a third rail that they have to deal with that I didn't have to deal with. What's your take on that? What are you saying to that young professional right now that wants to get into your industry, surrounded by a lot of nonsense? How do they find their way through the woods here?
I think you got to find a mentor. Mentorship is so powerful and it can really help you navigate all of these things that are coming at them in such a way. The second thing is, what is your passion? Don't do it if you're not passionate about it, because that's going to drive your ability to push through all of those stumbling blocks and disappointments and things that would make you want to quit, right? And, the third thing, always be excellent. Find books and podcasts and things that you can, be a part of or that you can read or that you can ingest about being excellent, because there's no way you're going to be successful by doing it halfway. Excellence is everything. It comes in the core of who we are. And if you're not excellent, everyone can see it. So if you're going to do it in excellence. Don't do it halfway, because that is the very thing that'll even add to your inability to be successful.
These are good words to end on. Chelsea, you
Yes.
just heard from Chelsea Zirpola. You heard a 30-minute mini version of her journey. Thank you for joining us. Chelsea, great to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be a part of it.